Halloween nights are supposed to feel safe. Glowing porch lights, laughter in the streets, the smell of pumpkin candles in the air. But sometimes, behind the masks and decorations, something darker waits. In these stories, kids looking for candy find themselves face to face with real terror. A house that shouldn't exist, and a man in a mask who follows too close. These are true Halloween nightmares about trick-or-treating gone wrong. This story was sent to me by someone named Tyler. He told me he hasn't gone trick-or-treating since the night this happened. When I was 10, Halloween was everything. The cold air, the smell of pumpkin candles, the sound of leaves crunching under sneakers. My friends and I would haul pillowcases instead of plastic pumpkins because we thought that made us serious about candy. By the end of the night, your hands would ache from carrying the bag, but you'd never stop. That year, I went out with my two best friends, Jason and Danny. Jason wore a cheap skeleton mask, the kind with a rubber band that always snapped against your hair. Danny had a vampire cape that dragged on the ground, and I was a pirate with an eye patch that fogged up every time I breathed. We thought we looked awesome. The night was normal at first, running up porches, yelling, "Trick or treat," and shoving fun-size bars into our bags. Parents stood on driveways with steaming cups of coffee. Porch lights glowed warm. You could smell cider and smoke from fireplaces. It felt safe. It always did. But then we reached the last house on the street, the corner lot. That's when everything changed. The house looked wrong. No pumpkins, no fake cobwebs, no porch light, just shadows. Every other house was alive with kids and laughter. But this one sat quiet, like it didn't belong on the block at all. We almost walked past it when Jason suddenly stopped. "Look," he whispered. The front door was standing wide open, and just inside on the floor was a big plastic bowl overflowing with candy. Full-size bars, the holy grail of Halloween. Jason grinned through his mask. Jackpot. I stayed on the sidewalk. My stomach knotted. "Why would they leave it like that?" I asked. Danny hesitated too, his cape dragging on the ground as he shifted from foot to foot. "Yeah, that's weird." Jason rolled his eyes. "You guys are babies. Free candy's free candy." He jogged up the steps, Danny following more slowly. I gripped my pillowcase tighter, the plastic wrappers inside crinkling. Something about the house felt heavy. Wrong. Jason bent down and reached for the bowl. That's when the front door slammed shut. The sound was so loud it rattled the porch. All three of us jumped. Then the porch light above them buzzed to life, flickering before it held steady, bathing everything in sickly yellow. Jason dropped the candy bar he'd grabbed and Danny stumbled backward. The street was silent. Too silent. I remember realizing even the laughter from the other kids nearby seemed farther away. Then came the footsteps. From upstairs. Slow. Heavy. Each one dragged, like the person wanted us to hear them. Thump, thump, thump. Jason tried to laugh, but it cracked in his throat. It's nothing, just..." A voice cut through him. From deep in the hallway, calm, low, too close. "You're not supposed to be here." Every hair on my body stood up. Danny's hand clamped onto my sleeve, his nails digging into my arm. "Run," he whispered. Jason dropped his entire candy bag and the three of us bolted. I nearly tripped on the steps, my pirate mask shifting sideways as I stumbled, but Danny yanked me forward. Behind us, I swear I heard fast movement, like someone rushing toward the door. We tore down the street, sneakers slapping against pavement, pillowcases bouncing against our legs. My chest burned, but I didn't stop. Jason screamed something I couldn't even understand. Danny wheezed, gasping, but he didn't slow down either. The only sound louder than our running was the pounding of my heartbeat. We didn't stop until we collapsed behind a hedge 3 blocks away. We crouched there, gasping, our breath coming out in white clouds. Jason's skeleton mask hung sideways, his face pale. Danny's hand shook so badly he dropped 2 candy bars in the dirt. "What the hell was that?" Jason whispered, his voice breaking. Danny shook his head. "That wasn't a prank. That voice, he meant it." I couldn't stop shaking. My arms, my legs, even my teeth. I just kept hearing it in my head, steady and calm. "You're not supposed to be here." We argued about going back, but Danny and I wouldn't let Jason. We cut through yards and went straight home, avoiding the corner. Later that night, I told my parents. My dad frowned. "What house? That lot's been empty for years." I thought he was teasing me, but the next morning I biked past to prove it. My stomach turned cold. The lot was nothing but grass and a sagging fence. No porch, no door, no bowl of candy, no house. I don't know what we saw that night. I don't think I ever will. But even now, almost 20 years later, I won't walk down that street on Halloween. And sometimes when I see a door left cracked open, I hear it again in the back of my head. Low, calm, almost bored. Like someone is just waiting on the other side. "You're not supposed to be here." This story was sent to me by someone named Alex. He told me he still can't stand the sound of footsteps behind him on Halloween night. I was 12 when this happened. Old enough to think I was too cool for trick-or-treating, but not old enough to say no to free candy. My little sister begged me to take her out, and I figured why not. If she got tired early, I'd get half her stash. It was one of those perfect Halloween nights. The air was crisp and smelled like wet leaves and pumpkin candles. Porch lights glowed orange. Kids in cheap costumes sprinted across lawns, and parents stood in driveways with travel mugs of coffee. My sister wore a princess dress that dragged on the ground, already snagged with dirt, and a plastic crown that kept slipping sideways. I had a pillowcase digging into my palm, heavy with candy, and I remember thinking life couldn't get much better. But that was before I saw him. Across the street, under a street lamp, stood a man in jeans and a gray hoodie. He wore one of those thin plastic masks you get from a bargain bin, with oversized eye holes and a slit for the mouth. His hands hung at his sides, no candy bag, no kids, just standing there facing us. At first, I told myself it was nothing. Halloween was full of people in masks, probably a dad waiting for his kid. But when we stopped so my sister could rummage through her bag for a lollipop, I noticed him stop too. He didn't check his phone. He didn't look around. He just stood there. Mask pointed right at us. "Come on," I told her, tugging her sleeve. We crossed to the next house. A few minutes later, I glanced back. He was walking again, the same slow pace, always keeping the same distance. By the time we hit the far end of Maple Street, I felt sweat on the back of my neck even though the night was cold. He crossed the street to our side. My sister tugged at my sleeve. "Can we go to the Wilsons? They have the big candy bars." "Not tonight," I said, forcing a laugh. My voice cracked. "We're heading home." She frowned. "But we're not done." "We're done," I snapped, sharper than I meant. We cut across a yard, my shoes crunching on leaves. I risked a glance back. He was closer now, still staring, still silent. "Hold my hand," I told her. We started walking faster, then jogging. My pillowcase bounced against my leg, the candy inside shifting and clattering. My sister's crown slipped off, but I yanked her along. Behind us, I could hear his footsteps too, crunching through the leaves. When we turned onto our street, I nearly cried with relief. Our porch light glowed at the end, and I could see my dad standing in the doorway, holding a bowl, chatting with kids. Home. We were safe. Then I heard it, the sound of running. I spun my head. The man was sprinting toward us. "Go!" I screamed. We tore down the sidewalk, candy spilling from my bag, my sister stumbling as her dress tangled around her shoes. I hauled her up by the arm, her scream cutting through the night. His footsteps pounded behind us. Closer, closer. Plastic mask catching the streetlight as he closed the gap. We flew up the driveway, nearly tripping over the curb. My dad turned, confused, as we scrambled onto the porch. "Inside," I shouted, shoving my sister through the door. I slammed it shut and twisted the lock. My chest heaved so hard I thought I'd throw up. Dad grabbed my shoulders. "What happened?" I couldn't answer. I just pointed at the window. But when he looked out, the street was empty. No running footsteps, no man. Just the quiet glow of porch lights and the sound of kids laughing down the block. The police came later. They searched the street, asked neighbors, even drove around. Nobody else saw him. Nobody in a gray hoodie. Nobody in a mask. It's been years, but I think about him every Halloween. How he kept just far enough back, waiting. How he only ran when we were almost safe. And now, whenever I'm out walking and I hear footsteps behind me, I feel my stomach drop. My hand tightens into a fist before I even turn, because I can't help but wonder if it's him again, just waiting for me to look back. Halloween ends when the lights go out, but the fear doesn't. The stories you heard tonight are real, and they remind us that the scariest things aren't in haunted houses. They're right outside your door. If you want more true horror like this, make sure you're subscribed, because the next knock you hear might not be a trick-or-treater.